Good morning, everyone. Before I take a few questions, I'd first like to give a brief update on our increased efforts, the efforts that my administration is taking to combat the significant increase in residents' calls for service during the freezing cold temperatures. I, like many of you, are ready for this winter to be over. I know that they're saying, what's 10 more days, 11 more days till spring? What is it? 16, according to the sign on 83.
The temperature got to go above my age first.
How old are you?
34.
Yes, yeah, we're looking for that. All right, so we're all frustrated with the extended cold temperatures, and we've worked through thousands of calls from residents struggling with the after effects of water main breaks, frozen pipes, and flooded basements. In an effort to be more responsive to those residents in need, I've directed the Department of Public Works to implement a comprehensive response plan to help move more of these requests for to move these requests for service more quickly through the process, and to provide more immediate relief for our residents. We've opened the new command center that is staffed 24 hours a day. We extended shifts for all of our employees, and we brought in additional staff and contractors to focus on responding to residents' calls for service. We've also added additional support to the city's 311 center, and as a result of these aggressive efforts, the backlog that once stood at more than 5,000 calls for service has been considerably reduced. Residents who have suffered without water for weeks are now able to return to a sense of normalcy. And that's what everyone in our city deserves. Director Chow will go into additional details about on exactly where we stand with the backlog, as well as the potential threats to our progress with the impending weather, as it is expected to begin again tonight. But before I turn it over to the director, I would like to again reiterate my commitment to continuing the growth that we see and that we're witnessing here in the city. And it's that growth is built on the foundation of striving to provide more services, more better quality services for our residents. You know, when we have these tough times, when we have this extended cold snap, that's when we're called upon to do more, to do better, and to work together better to provide good service to our residents. I often speak about my desire to grow Baltimore by 10,000 families. And yes, you have to attract new residents to do that. But more importantly, to me, we have to give those residents who are already here more reasons to stay. And that's why getting this right for the residents is so important. That's why being responsive to families who need help is so important. So to those families out there who are frustrated with the impact of broken pipes and the broken water mains, again, I want to say that we hear you, I hear you, and we are working around the clock to have these issues resolved. We continue to leave nothing on the table when it comes to the resources that we have available to us, and we will continue to work around the clock in these challenging times to bring you relief. Now I'd like to turn it over to Director Chow, who will provide additional information about our efforts. Director Chow?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to give you an update regarding to the frozen services and the no water calls. We had, in the last 10, 12 days, we have addressed more than 6,000 service requests now. These include the no water reports as well as water leaks and water in basement. Well, this progress is due to tremendous teamwork throughout DPW, and especially to those crew members who work nights and days in the cold to make repairs. But requests for service repairs continue to come in on a daily basis. We now stand at about 274 no water backlog, and we're going to continue to work on that. We are still encountering situation where we're visiting a home, making the repairs or thaw out the service, but the homeowner apparently was not at home, which prevented us from turning the service on, just in case there's a faucet is on, or there could be a break on property, and we don't want to cause any property damages. Well, this progress has come because of hard work of our many people. Our crews continue to provide service, repairs around the clock, 7 days a week. We are moving to 16-hour shifts in our maintenance office to fix broken water mains and individual service repairs. We have as many as 16 contract crews working today to help fix broken mains and restore individual services, and we are working to identify more that can help. Crews dedicated to stormwater and sewer work will be diverted to help clear ice away from water meter lids so that we can get access to the meter more quickly. And we will continue to reach out to other city agencies for assistance whenever it's feasible. The weather outlook for the next few weeks will be critical for us. DPW will continue to participate in the snow response. Now, of course, a gradual thawing process as weather warms up will be important to the stability of our water mains. A ground that has frozen around those mains and a quick thaw might allow the ground and the pipe to shift too quickly. And with a little luck, we'll get through the worst of this winter. And of course, this goes to the heart of our aging infrastructure, and we are experiencing exactly what we are talking about for years now about reinvesting our infrastructure. I also want to address the hard work under very difficult condition by our Bureau of Solid Waste. Icy streets and alleys have been difficult on our crews. We haven't been able to run our street sweepers in weeks now. Our sanitation crews have had to drive their trucks into alleys slick with ice. They also had to step on and reach over piles of snow and ice. It is difficult work, and some have been hurt doing their job. Our customer can help us by helping us to break up ice as much as possible to be sure cans are accessible to our crews, and make sure your water meters are accessible to our meter readers as well as our repair crews. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Director Johnson.
Good morning. I'd like to provide you with an update on our snow preparation. As you know, we're anticipating one of the larger snow events to hit Baltimore City during this season. Right now, forecasts have rain starting today and changing over to snow sometimes in the wee hour of the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then snow continuing on to as late as 7 p.m. on tomorrow. Some forecasts indicate that we could see 8 to 10 inches of snow here. So the Department of Transportation and the coordinated agencies of the City of Baltimore are preparing for this. At this point, we anticipate activating our snow center at midnight tonight, and we'll continue working around the clock to keep all our streets passable and until they're safe and clear. We will have about 240 pieces of equipment deployed tonight. We plan to attack this storm aggressively, as we always do. We're going to start with the primary streets concurrent with our neighborhood streets so that we don't get behind in our plowing operations. It's a lot easier to plow away 2 or 3 inches of snow than to try to plow away 10 inches of snow. So we can't let that snow accumulate. We're going to have to get out there and we're going to plow continuously to try to stay ahead of this storm. Some of the challenges that we're facing with this storm, in addition to the amount of accumulation, is going to be how we are going to be able to supply and stay continuously supplied for salt. The past two events that we responded to were primarily ice, and as you know, we cannot plow ice. We have to treat it with salt. Without the aggressive treatment process that we went through, our streets would have been covered with a sheet of ice. But the downside of that is that has depleted our salt supplies. So we've been working diligently since this past weekend, trying to get our salt supply replenished, and we're continuing to work with our vendors, with the state, and with emergency management to make sure that we have an adequate salt supply to deal with the pending storm that we're facing now. The other thing that I would anticipate is that on tomorrow morning, traveling is going to be very difficult. We'll be in the middle of this snow event. We're expecting some of the heaviest snow periods to occur after 3 o'clock in the morning on tomorrow, and again to go well into the day on tomorrow. So I would just advise all motorists to proceed with caution, plan your schedules accordingly, use today to get into the stores or to whatever you need to do, run your errands and stock up on your supplies, because traveling is going to be very difficult on tomorrow. And with that, I guess we'll open it up for any questions.
Yep. Mayor, I'd like to say, you all have said so much about the response and the 24-hour center operations to repair water pipes, but some of these people that have, communicated with the Sun have been out since February 15th, February 17th, February 23rd. Like, why is it taking so long to get some of these repairs? What's the complications and the reason why it's taking so much time?
Well, I think if you take a look at the number of outages that we have, that answers your question. You don't get through a backlog of almost 5,000 calls for service without it taking time. And when you have an extended period of severe cold weather, it is logical that you have the impact on water pipes, on homes, on streets, and once you have that number of homes that are impacted, it's going to take time to resolve that. That's why we've hired contractors. That's why we've extended the shift for workers. That's why we've diverted workers that were doing some other things to this work, so we could put all of the resources that we had available to work this backlog. But the reality is, once you have so many people, it takes time. And while it's frustrating, I think people should know that we are putting all of the resources that we have toward this effort, but it does not stop the fact that it takes time to resolve these issues.
Do you know about how many people total are working on these water calls?
Well, at any given day, obviously during the daytime hours, we have more. We have a couple hundred folks, and at night, we have close to about 100.
Any sense how many of those are contractors that were hired specifically for that versus how many would normally be working on it?
Well, what I just described are our own people.
Okay.
And of course, on top of it, we have contractors, working around the clock with us. There's, as I reported earlier, it's about 16 crews out there from various on-call contractors.
Can I ask a question that's kind of a broader question about the winter? You guys are dealing with an aging infrastructure, but homes that have been built in the last 10 years aren't aging infrastructures. They are built to the standard of our building codes in Maryland, and they have broken pipes all over the place. So my question is, are we potentially in a situation in this state where our building codes are no match for this weather?
Well, first of all, our current building code is up to code, up to standard. When you talk about homes that's perhaps built in the last 10 years or so, first of all, the lines serving these new homes are still aging infrastructure. And of course, when we talk about ice buildup, the sub-zero freezing temperatures, copper pipe, if the water is not flowing, they'll have a tendency to freeze. And then they could have a plumbing inside the home that froze, and that caused failures and so on and all that. So not everything we talked about, 5,000, are all on the city side problem.
No, I think most of them are probably not on the city side.
Lots of them are on the
Correct, and
homeowner
that's
side.
my question is whether, I would assume that the building code in Minneapolis is different than it is in the state of Maryland. Am I correct? Because the weather is harsh.
That's correct. But remember, when the home gets built, if the insulation was not done properly by the builder and all that, that's generally what causes the pipe to freeze, especially the pipe near the exterior wall. If it was not well insulated, then you got a problem then. But that, by code, the plumbing system is there, but then.
Are there limits on how many pipes can be run along an exterior wall? 'Cause that's one of the biggest issues. when it comes to
That's the
freezing
issue,
pipes.
especially with row homes and townhouses,
Yeah.
et cetera, is the exterior units are just getting.
No, I mean, I don't think the plumbing code goes into how many pipes you are allowed on the exterior wall. It is up to the builder to insulate those pipes, if they are on the exterior wall,
So I think we're asking another question.
okay?
The question is, do the building codes in Maryland have to be revisited, considering we've now had 2 winters in a row of an awful lot of busted pipes because of the frigid cold for an extended period of time? In your opinion, based on what you've had to deal with lots and lots of homes that have had busted pipes, do you think that the building codes themselves perhaps need to require more insulation on exterior walls, that kind of thing, to better protect the infrastructure of a home?
Well, first of all, the plumbing code itself gets reviewed on an annual basis. So, will they take into consideration? Remember, master plumbing code is for, not just for this jurisdiction, but for the region and perhaps for the country as a whole. So they gotta take everything into consideration.
Are you seeing, certainly it sounds like more townhouses, row homes, but, is there a specific, type of structure, whether it's business customers, residential customers? Can you kind of characterize who's seeing the most water main breaks?
Well, we're seeing a cross section of all those. Because some of the failure we saw is, for example, we have outside meter pits. Some of the older pits did not get buried deep enough, so which caused a problem. But that was what code allowed back, decades ago. But today we are supposed to bury those so-called meter pits below frost line, and that's what the code requires us to do. So we're dealing with all that.
What have been some of the most common problems with water pipes? That's one good example. Could you give a couple of others?
That is actually one significant one, that what we're seeing, that as we investigate these more than 5,000 frozen services, we still have quite a bit of what we call a split services or broken services. That's what is the case, where the service line itself broke because the freeze is split, and now we had to basically do excavation and repair those pipelines.
That's the city's pipe.
That's on city side. Of course, there are splits on the homeowner side as well. That's where they need
Because I know you
plumbers.
mentioned copper, but an awful lot of the new construction is CPVC, so it's not copper.
That's on the interior
Correct.
of the house.
Are the calls based upon some priority? Why would somebody be out for 10 days or longer as opposed to somebody who has a fresh break last week? Is there a reason that somebody will be out longer than somebody else?
Well, we are dealing with the oldest one first, and then on top of it, we also take into consideration if those service calls are related to school, hospital, and other high priority entities, that we certainly get to those first.
Can we ask Johnson a question, Director? Well, since we had that problem. Did you guys get behind after the snow 2 weeks ago?
Get behind?
Get behind and not plow all the streets?
No, we did not.
Did not get behind or did not plow all the streets?
Did not get behind.
Some of the snow emergency routes we've noticed were not plowed curb to curb like they normally are.
Right.
Now they're awful.
Right, we had a number of cars parked along the emergency routes. So when cars are parked there, unless we relocate those cars out, then we can't plow all the way to the curb lines. Immediately following that event, as you may recall, that the temperatures dropped and got really, really low. So a lot of the piles of snow turned into ice. And we got a lot of calls from people asking us to come and plow their curbs, as we normally do after cars had moved out. But plow trucks can't move solid blocks of ice like that, so that's why it was difficult there.
Okay?
Mayor, I wanted to ask you about the Board of Finance is voting, as far as I know, on the.
Before we go into that, any
Okay.
other questions for Director
I
Chow?
don't think so.
Or,
Yeah, sorry, I thought
You
we
were-
were done.
all right, no, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Clarity.
So the Board of Finance is gonna be voting on a $58 million, and this is only my understanding from my discussions with them because they won't release the paperwork to me.
Mhm.
But they're gonna be voting on a $58 million TIF for what's known as the Poppleton Development,
Mhm.
10-year interdevelopment plan. Do you support that TIF, and if so, why do you think it's necessary for this particular development?
First, the Poppleton area is an area that I think is ripe for development. It is an area that wants development. It is a community that has been begging for this project to move forward, and they've been very patient, working with the developer, working with the city to move it forward. The opinion or the determination that a TIF is needed isn't my decision. It's an independent board. The BDC does an evaluation, the Board of Finance does an evaluation, and they make that recommendation. But I would say for those residents in Poppleton who have been frustrated by the lack of progress, that I'm pushing to make sure that this project moves forward. I know that this is something that will improve the quality of their lives, something that community desperately wants, and something that I'd like to see happen.
Do you have any concerns going forward with creating sort of, maybe not intentionally, but a two-tiered tax system where, you know, the developments end up, you know, with deferred taxes either through pilots or TIFs, and then, you know, an average person ends up having to pay full freight? I mean, how does this work out in the end? Do you have any concerns about that?
I think you raised an interesting question. I also believe that the tools that we use, the economic tools that we use, have been tested not just in Baltimore but all over the country, and I do not believe they have created a two-tiered tax system anywhere else. We focus on making sure that there's a significant but-for test when we when we make a recommendation for any of the TIFs or pilots or any of the tools that we have. We use those tools sparingly and when they are necessary to create the type of development that we want to see in our neighborhoods. And I think Poppleton deserves the investment that is proposed.
So Mayor, could you,
one more, because I gotta cut it short.
could you clarify your comments on the what's now going to be an open Senate seat? Whether you are you considering running for that seat?
So first and foremost, I'm very, very flattered that my name is being mentioned as a possible successor to such a legendary and historic figure such as Senator Mikulski, someone who means so much to me personally, someone who's meant so much to the city and to the state. So many female elected officials, elected leaders like myself, owe her a debt of gratitude for all of her years of remarkable service. But not just for her service to our city and to our state, but also for blazing a trail for young women who are thinking about a life in public service at all levels of government. And while I'm flattered by the mention, I know that the speculation about me as a possible successor says a lot more about the progress that we've been seeing in Baltimore City over the past few years than it does about me personally. It makes me very, very proud to see that a Baltimore girl, just like our senator, is being mentioned as a contender for a U.S. Senate seat. And I'm also proud to see the progress that we've made in the city. I know that it's a model that certainly would help get things done in Washington, D.C. That being said, I love being mayor. I love having the ability every single day when I wake up to make real change and serve the people of Baltimore and really work hard to make people's lives better, because there are a lot of people in Baltimore that need help and that need my help to make their lives better. I think that I have to think long and hard about if that's something I'm willing to give up in order to join the partisan gridlock we have, and from the likes of it we'll continue to have in Washington, where every day it seems harder and harder to get common sense things done for everyday people struggling to make ends meet. For the past few years, I've had the opportunity to roll up my sleeves and to work to make Baltimore better, to really serve the citizens of Baltimore. And I can honestly say that by any metric, Baltimore City is much better off today than it was when I took office, following the previous administration. And our budget deficits have been managed. Structural deficits are down. New schools and recreation centers are being built for the first time in decades. Property taxes are being cut. Our city is safer. And we're creating new jobs every day. In short, the things that we've been working on in Baltimore has worked. And so while I really have to think long and hard about whether I can serve the citizens of this city that I care so deeply about better here or in Washington. And I'll be discussing it with my family. And again, I really want to say that while I'm thinking about it and we're making a decision very soon, I honestly think that while I'm flattered, it says so much more about the fact that people see things are happening in Baltimore and the right things are happening in Baltimore. Otherwise, my name wouldn't even be mentioned.
So, this is not the first time we brought up the previous administration.
Mm-hmm.
Which administration are you referring to?
I'm talking about when I took office. When I took office, we were facing a budget deficit of over almost $150 million. We were facing a pension system that was in crisis. We had a $750 million structural budget deficit. All of those things, not to mention the other crisis points that we had in the city, those were serious things that I had to contend with. And I worked like, we'll say, HE double hockey sticks to make things better in Baltimore. And I'm really focused on making sure that we don't slip backwards.
I didn't hear the next administration or the O'Malley administration.
You don't approve of that type of language. I'm very sorry if I've offended you.
You said you'll make a decision on running for Senate soon. Is that a situation, do you think that you can run for Senate and effectively remain as mayor? Do both of those things at the same time?
I would say that the work that I do requires a significant amount of my attention. I also know that people have run for higher office from every level of government except for president. So.
A timeline on the decision?
Thank you. Soon. Thank you very much.
You know she does feel hard and loose timelines.